welcome back to 16 Tank Workshop. In this video I'll be having a look at the Panzer III. I'll show you the progress made there. I had 2 videos already in edit, but I lost everything. So it'll be just a quick look over the progress that's been made so far. Here you can see I've put a new floor in. This is above the level of the torsion bar suspension. This will allow me to place the electronics neatly. I made spacers on the lathe and they're drilled out each side and tapped for M3 screws. So the floor is screwed down through the top. The spacers are screwed through the bottom of the vehicle with M3 screws. So the floor is secure. But it's only 6 screws holding the floor on if I need to take it out to access the suspension. But I shouldn't need to, because on this vehicle the only thing holding the suspension in is these grub screws. You can see I've also added a firewall section, a divider right across the interior. This gives me more division for sorting out electronics, maybe batteries in the front or rear and the electronics on the other end. I'll add more to this as I need to house speakers and various pieces of electronics neatly, but I'll do a test layout first so you can see exactly what I need. This firewall section also gives much better support to the top decks. And here you can see the rear section. I have brackets holding the firewall in place to the side of the hull, and they're held in place with M2 countersunk screws, so they're hidden on the outside. Once I lift off the decks, if I need to take the floor out, this firewall section just slides out. You can also see that I've painted the interiors in a German grey in the rear and also on the floor. Here you can see I've painted the interior of the hull in the ivory colour used on the interior of German vehicles. On the rear deck I filled all the holes. These were the holes for the deck supports. I filled them, but also the hinge holes, as I'm going to make my own hinges. The kit hinges were very small and didn't look anything like the originals. Here's one of the deck hatches. These are made of steel. And the deck hatches have these air vent covers which will be fitted, but I want to add some details to the underneath, so that's for another video. So in a later video I'll make the suitable hinges for the rear deck and also fit the hatches. But rather than use the small bracket across here and across here to hold the hatches in place, I intend to make a full support similar to what I did on the front hatches if you watched the earlier video. Again, here we have the underside of the vehicle. You can see here the countersunk screws holding the floor in place. These screws fit into these standoffs on the other side, so it's possible to remove the floor while leaving the standoffs in place. Again, a big thank you for all the subscriptions. Keep them coming. Seeing all those new subscriptions gives me some motivation to continue with the channel. So keep subscribing, hit the like button, make some comments. I always try to answer the comments. Next I'll show you how I go about doing some fake welds on the hull. We'll start off with this weld along here while we have the vehicle upside down. To make the fake welds, I use standard Milliput sculpting tool and also my own workshop made tool. You can see it's just 2 pieces of aluminium tube and they've got a profile added to each end and can do different sizes of welds. If you haven't used Milliput before, it comes in these 2 parts, one grey, one yellow. And for the welds we'll just use a small chunk of each colour, and they need to be mixed really well. Just a small equal size piece of each. These then need to be mixed really thoroughly. So I'll give it a good minute or two to make sure it's really well mixed. It's mixed. I then take a piece, not too big, and start rolling. I prefer to work in small quantities of Milliput, as once it's freshly mixed it's much better, much tackier. If it starts to go off, it loses some of the stickiness. Just work it into the gap a little bit. And then with my sculpting tool here, I moisten the tip a little bit sometimes. With my sculpting tool, I'm working my way along the weld. It also has the advantage that it's going to plug any gaps between the armour plates. And that's the rear lower hull. Now I'm doing something similar for the front lower hull. And that's it for this weld line. You can tidy up a bit if you're not happy with some parts. You've plenty of time to work with this material. Once cured, you can spray over the Milliput with whatever paint you're using. It has a very tough finish and I've had no problems with any types of paint, including spraying over it with etch primer. Here you can see along the side of the hull more weld lines. I've also filled the screw holes which held the brackets retaining the hull roof. I've also filled these screw holes here. These were the screw holes retaining the brackets I fitted to hold the firewall on the inside. I used M2 countersunk screws and I've just covered them over now. Let's have a look at the front of the hull. I've done some work there. Here you can see at the front of the hull I've added the weld lines. I've also filled the holes where the cap head screws were, retaining brackets and holding the hull together. Also these hinges, I made these hinges a long time ago for another project and I thought they might be suitable for the Panzer III rather than the kit hinges, and I'm quite happy with them. They're made in white metal. Referring to the drawings in Panzer Tracts, these are the hatches in question and these are the hinges. These drawings are in 1/10 scale. I've blown them up on the photocopier by 1.66 up to 1/6 scale and check the measurements, and they're quite accurate, maybe within a millimetre, so I'm happy enough with these. I thought I might be able to use these on the rear engine bay hatches. Here's the engine bay hatches. The hinges are slightly smaller and a different profile, but they look actually simpler. And Panzer Tracts gives very good drawings of the profile from the sides and front. So I'll make my own hinges for the rear hatches. Next, we have the protective strip for the driver's viewport. I think it's referred to as chute sliced. The kit part was fairly plain at the top. On the real vehicle, this would have been held in place with 6 tapered bolts. So I've replicated the tapered bolts on the milling machine. Unfortunately, I lost the video of doing this work on the milling machine. Here you can see the marks for the 6 tapered bolts. The kit part for the driver's viewport is pretty basic, so I might make something from scratch there. That'll be for another video. I've also fitted the MG ball mount. The ball mount can rotate. It's a bit tight at the moment, I need to loosen it a bit more. The ball mount housing is held in place through the back with 2 M3 screws. It's important not to over tighten the housing, as if you do, the ball mount won't move at all. I haven't filled these screw holes yet, as it's likely at some stage that I'll want to remove the hull decks again for access for electronics. In the Tigers, I don't generally bolt down the top deck at all. The top deck can come off in sections. But in the Panzer III and also the Panzer IV, the decks actually help hold the shape of the vehicle. So I will eventually, when I get to a certain stage, countersink these screws a little bit more and fit them permanently. The good thing about the Panzer III and also the Panzer IV, there's very good access. You can get to most of the interior of the hull through the turret opening, and also very generous hatch space at the back for electronics. So I won't have any problem in sealing up these permanently. So what's coming next for the Panzer III? Well, I think first of all, get the engine hatches, get the supports made, get the engine hatches fitted, and make the hinges. Also, another part that will need some work on this Panzer III, the suspension swing arms are very rectangular and sharp. On the Panzer III they should be rounded. I think they've addressed this on some of the later models, I'm not too sure, but they're certainly not as squared as these. I've seen a number of builders coming up with good ideas for fixing this problem. Not too sure exactly what I'm going to do yet, but I have a few things in mind. The actual width of the part I think is quite good. To scale, it should be about a 16mm diameter, which is about right here. It's just the shape is wrong. Here I have some 16mm bar, so I'm thinking of cutting some of the rounded sections to fit on either side and then round off the rest. That won't affect the strength of the swing arms, make them stronger if anything. So that's something to try out. So again, thanks everybody for watching. It's such a pity I lost so much video footage, but hopefully this video will show you what I've been up to over the last few days. I'll put another video here and another one here, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching. I'll put up some photos at the end. Having lost 87 gigabytes of video, it's a bit of a downer. I tried recovery software, but it didn't actually work.